Hello, students. Welcome. It's good to be back with you. We've just finished the exciting world of Japan, and a lot of you got to be your own warlords and try to conquer each other. I hope you enjoyed and had fun and learned a lot about Japanese culture and what kind of makes them click today. So, we are now moving into Europe. So, we've made it. We're now in Europe, and we're going to be talking a lot about what happened after the Roman Empire fell. At the beginning of the year, when the Roman Empire fell, we then kind of shifted our attention from Rome to Constantinople or Byzantium, and we started focusing on the Byzantine Empire. So we really didn't get to study what was going on in Europe at that time since we moved to the Byzantine Empire. So now we're going to. And you're going to see a lot of interesting things going on. There's going to be a little bit of review from the end parts of Rome falling again. So go ahead and when I go through, I'm going to go really quick. So if you want, just pause it and you can read it yourself. But I'm not going to go much into a lot of that because we've talked about that already, and it's review. So feel free just to use the pause button as much as you'd like to be able to acquire all the information. So let's begin. So here we go. Uh, so we have a map of uh, of Europe. We have the Alps and the Pyrenees, and we have the Carpathians. So these are all mountain ranges and physical features that have sort of helped and shaped how Europe has been formed today. And here you have just a quick little idea of what the different climates are in the different areas. Not going to go into too much of that. And so we have here more of, it just gives you a little better picture of what they all look like. And there's also some graphs if you're into graphs during that time. I'm not going to go a lot into this. And then here we have this is the two figures. We've talked about Constantine. You know a lot about him here. Okay? So now we're going to go to Charlemagne, and Charlemagne's going to be the new figure of the what's going to be known as the Holy Roman Empire. So we talked about the Roman Empire that eventually fell, and eventually something's going to come out called the Holy Roman Empire, and that will be Charlemagne, who will be the progenitor of the Holy Roman Empire. So you can go ahead and look at all those as well. That's what we're going to be talking about. So we talked about Emperor Constantine. He converted to Christianity, and that's a really big thing to understand because that's going to lead to Christianity just flourishing throughout Europe. Once the emperors of great nations were involved, then people were going to jump on board with Christianity as well. And so we talked about Rome separating the two empires. We had the West and the East. The West falls, the East becomes the Byzantine Empire. We have Diocletian reforms, and we've learned about all this before. We have Germanic warriors. We have Odoacer, who ultimately defeats the Roman Empire, Romulus Augustus. We have Odoacer's Europe when he defeated Romulus Augustus and caused him to step down. We have the Visigoths and the Ostrogoths. And here we have a little overview. You have the Vandals over here, and we have a few more, and of course the Franks. And the Franks we're going to focus on for most of the of the of the webcast. So okay, so we have the Merovingian dynasty in Christianity. So the Merovingian dynasty was named after Merovic, the king of the Salian Franks, who came to power in 457. They were called the long-haired kings. Now Christianity was brought to the Merovingians by Irish monks. The most famous of these missionaries was Saint Columbanus, who began preaching in France around 585. So Clovis I, a Merovingian king, united the Franks in 481. He converted to the Roman Catholicism. His conversion helped spread Roman Catholicism through his kingdom and united the Franks with the Byzantium. So the Franks and the Byzantine Empire will become somewhat allies. Merovingian administration, kings appointed powerful leaders to be comites or counts. We have charging them with defense, administration, and the judgment of disputes. The systems developed into feudalism, and we talked about feudalism in Japan, and eventually this is going to lead to another sense of feudalism in Europe. Here we have the map, and we see how the Frankish power is starting to combine and to grow. Not going to really detail this, but you can look at it if you like and draw your own conclusions. Now we have the Carolingian dynasty. The Carolingian dynasty rose from the royal office called the Mayor of the Palace under the Merovingian dynasty. The Mayor of the Palace became hereditary under Pepin the Elder. Now the Mayor Palace was power over the army and came to control the Frankish kingdoms. The Carolingian dynasty. We have Charles Martel. He's a descendant of Pepin the Elder. He stopped the civil war among the Franks and became the mayor of the palace. Charles' son Pepin the Short was proclaimed king of the Franks by Pope Zachary. And interesting, because now that there's Christianity's involved, you have a pope who is the leader of Christianity and also becomes very influential in how politics are played in that region. So the pope is going to have great power and sway, not just over the Christian church that they're called to preside over, but over even the kingdoms which are sometimes considered separate from the church and the state. We have Pepin the First was the official Carolingian king. The Carolingian dynasty is named for Charles Martel. We have the battles of Tours. So in this battle, Charles Martel defeated the Umayyad army in the Battle of Tours, halting the advance of the Muslim Moors into Europe into 732 CE. So we have the Muslims who are coming in through Spain, and now they're trying to come into and further into Europe, and you have Charles Martel who repels them. And this is a very critical time in history, because had they not have been repelled by Charles Martel, then it's obvious that the culture in Europe would be very different from what it is today, because they would have a very strong Muslim influence and laws as well. So we have down here, this is Charlemagne, the son of Pepin the Short, who was the grandson of Charles Martel. So here's Charlemagne as well, and this is the figurehead for the Holy Roman Empire, which is to come. So Charlemagne was crowned by the Holy Roman Empire by Leo III. Remember, Pope Leo III. It was on December 25th, 800 CE. He had conquered Italy from the Lombards on the behalf of Pope Hadrian I in 774 CE. Charlemagne brought in many reforms during his time. Reform simply means changes, hopefully for the better. So he did reforms in monetary, so in money and government and military education, and of course in the church as well. He was considered to be the inspiration of the Carolingian Renaissance. Here we have standardized Carolingian currency, and a standardized version of Latin developed during the Charlemagne's reign. Above a portion is the New Testament showing the newly created lowercase Latin letters. And so so scholars in Charlemagne's court courted all these individuals. I'll let you go ahead and read that. But needless to say, during Charlemagne's time, there was a great cultural renaissance going on. Church was very highly regarded. It had a very strong hold in his kingdom, and Charlemagne and the Pope worked very close together. And it was even the Pope that appointed Charlemagne to become the king. So Einhard the historian, he was a Frankish monk and historian. He is remembered for writing a comprehensive biography of Charlemagne titled Life of Charlemagne. Much of what is known today of Charlemagne and his empire comes from the work of Einhard. So here we have the Carolingian Empire, we have the Byzantine Empire, and then we have the Caliphate. So here's the Holy Roman Empire. Here's the Byzantine Empire, and then we have the Islamic Caliphate on the rise here on this side, and on this side, as you can see, the Umayyad is in Spain, and it was in their advance into further Europe into France area. What we call today is where the Battle of Tours began, and they were ultimately repelled. The fall of the Carolingian Empire after the death of Louis the Pious. The Treaty of Verdun at 843 divided the Carolingian Empire into three surviving sons. Here are the three sons, as you can see, and when an empire gets divided, that usually is the end of that empire, and one of those empires usually end up surpassing all the others. So here we go. This is where his three sons were around, and these were the three empires that were divided. So you have Louis the German, you have Lothair the First, and you have Charles the Bald, and that's that. So France is has been broken up, and that'll be the end. So we're gonna go ahead and end it here. So today we learned just a little recap. We talked about the Roman Empire and its fall again, and how we have Constantine who accepted Christianity, and because he accepted Christianity, Christianity started flourishing in the regions of Europe and in the Byzantine Empire, and in the western part of Europe, we eventually have the Carolingian line, which came forth as Charlemagne became the main figurehead of that line, who began what was called the Holy Roman Empire, and he was even appointed by a pope, which was very interesting to have both a religious figure and a political figure, and they're both working together. And so that will be it. So go ahead and write your one-page summary. I look forward to seeing you when we return, and until then, be safe, and we'll see you then.